Hello and welcome back to the channel, or perhaps welcome for the first time. I am William Gwynne, and today on the channel I will be talking about my own personal Oxford application experience. So the Oxford application process, or the Oxbridge application, is quite different from the normal route that you take. So it may have changed slightly since I applied, but when I did, I had to send off my personal statement, course choice, and unis I was applying to because I was choosing Oxford by the first week of October, whereas those not applying to Oxford or Cambridge send it off by the first week of January. It was for my year. It may be slightly different now, but for certain Oxbridge candidates have to send off their details and personal statement far earlier. So that means that you have to be prepared, and it shows Oxford and Cambridge that this is what you've wanted, that you're prepared for it, and that you're ready, and it gives them time for that interview process that I will talk about a bit later on. So I applied for History and English Joint Honours degree, and for this I needed the results of AAA, or predicted results of AAA, to apply to Oxford for this course. So I did my personal statement. I was very lucky that my college provided a lot of support, so it taught me through what was needed in the personal statement, and then I sent that off, and then after that you have to do a test relevant to your subject. So as I was applying for English and History, I had to do the HAT test, which is the History Aptitude Test, whereas those who were doing law, I believe it's called the ELAT, or that may be the name of the English test, I'm not quite sure. But yes, so for each different subject there's a different preliminary test that you do before they invite you or not invite you to the interview phase. So yes, I had a few weeks to prepare after sending off my personal statement for the HAT test. So I did quite a lot of mocks of these. You can find them online and look up on YouTube kind of what Oxford or Cambridge suggest you do, and I had the test during the first week of November, I believe. And so yes, I was quite nervous for this, but I was given a source that's relevant to the subject you're studying, and I just had to answer a question using the source as evidence for what I was saying, what I could infer from it, and what I believe was implied. So after the test, for me, the HAT test, you wait a few weeks to see if you are invited or not to the interview phase, and that will be based on your personal statement, your GCSE results, and your history aptitude test, as well as your predicted results for A-level. But that does not mean that you remain idle until you hear a response from me. I still had to make sure that I knew everything in my personal statement. Do not lie in your personal statement. They will question you on its content in your interview if you're applying to Oxbridge. So yes, you do not want to be found out for lying, because that will be your chances of getting into Oxford or Cambridge thrown out the window straight away. But yes, so I was really studying my content in there, because even though I had read everything, some of them I'd read perhaps a year and a half before. So for instance, I mentioned Henry V in my personal statement, and I hadn't read it for quite a while, so I reread it, talked about some things with my teachers, did some extra work on that. But then I was very lucky, and indeed very surprised, to hear that I had been invited to the interview phase by Oxford. So yes, this was a huge surprise, and for that day I was in a panic, because I just did not really expect it. You know, when you're just kind of in the mode of getting prepared but not thinking of what's the end goal. And so yes, that happened, but then I quickly dived back into doing the preparation. As I said before, my college were very really good. I was lucky that they prepared some mock interviews for me, so I did all that. I was very nervous, but then it got to the interviews, and so I had 2 interviews, because one was for English and one for history. And I applied during when COVID was at its peak, so I sadly could not go to Oxford to have the interview process in person. So this was done digitally, whereas I believe again that it is being done in person. So anyone applying now, if they get to the interview phase, will be invited to go up to Oxford for a few days and have their interviews. But as I said, mine was digitally, and so I was given a source for both of these half an hour before the interview that I had to analyse and write some notes on, and then during the interview we would talk about that, and then we would talk about my personal statement. And I felt my first one, which was English, it could have gone a bit better, but I wasn't really disappointed. And then I felt my history one the day after, I thought I did really well. Well, for me, I felt like I did the best that I could personally. And then I had a few days after, and I was thinking, all I need to do now is wait and see if I will be accepted. And then I got an email saying, you're going to be interviewed by another college within Oxford, and you'll be interviewed next week. So yes, I was pretty panicked again, but I had been notified that that could happen. So yes, so this can happen for a number of reasons, whether perhaps another college is considering accepting you. Apparently it can be input to the first college who interviewed you if they want to talk to some others to see if they should accept you. There's a number of reasons, but you are not told. So I prepared again, and I had the interviews the following week, and I thought they went well. I was happy with them. Well, I thought I did as well as I could. Afterwards, there's always stuff we think, oh, I should have mentioned that, but overall, I felt that I had some interesting discussion. I talked about Henry V, as I mentioned in my personal statement, so if I hadn't have read it or brushed up on it, that would have been pretty bad, but yeah, I had an interesting discussion about that, and it was a brilliant experience. And what I would say is that whether to this point, my other subjects, I did not let them lag behind. I'd been prepared in the summer knowing I was going to apply for Oxbridge, so I did my work that I was meant to, that a lot of people obviously leave until the last few days of the summer holiday. But I'd been prepared, so for instance, I had history coursework that we were doing for the first term on my second year of college, but I was ahead of that, so I had more time to really dedicate to this preparation. And you're studying the subjects that you're actually doing for A-level, so it's really enhancing your chances of getting a better grade at the end of the year as well. But anyway, onwards, and then all I had to do was wait for the offer or non-offer on the 12th of January. So about a month after. So yes, it was pretty nerve-wracking, but I kind of just got on with it. Didn't really think about it. Well, I thought about it, but I didn't let it affect me too much. And then I waited to that day, and I was quite nervous, and you're not told what time throughout the day you'll hear. But then I heard, and I was rejected by Oxford. They said that I had the offer to ask for feedback, which I asked for that. And it was weird. On the day, I wasn't too disappointed. It was a bit of like relief that I'd heard, but it was really the day after I was quite disappointed. But I got my feedback, and it was a bit vague, but it said I did well in my history aptitude test. I think my interview was average, or maybe a tiny bit. It showed English interviews and history interviews. I think my history interviews were a bit on average. My English ones were a tiny bit below, but not too far. But yes, so it was a bit vague, but I think it was those interviews that I really could have done better in. But I did well in the history aptitude test, apparently. And so yes, it was really I think a really great experience, where obviously it was disappointing not getting in, and I think it did affect me in the sense I felt a bit demotivated in terms of doing extra work for my subjects in the weeks to follow. I kind of got my mojo back when it was coming closer to studying for the final exam, but I think I had put so much time and effort into this that I felt I was exhausted really, so I think that came into it as well. But it really helped me get better results at the end of the year. I was accepted by Durham, where actually I had to get better results. I had to get A-star AA to get into Oxford for my course of English and History, and I got into Durham, which is brilliant, so I'll be heading there next October. So yes, it was quite disappointing at the time, but I'm so happy looking back that I did it, because it really helped me have a better grasp of the subjects I was studying. It really let me know what I really loved about the subject, what I was aiming for, and also it was just such a great experience. I think it's really important that not to have any regrets. I would have really regretted not doing it, I think. And I think it was important. I was really, really surprised to get to the interview phase, and I was quite proud that I did. Because I did not expect that. I'm not the most naturally clever. I know there's some people who I know they just are so naturally intelligent, it's actually annoying. But I put a lot of time and effort, and I got to the interview phase, which I was really happy with. And it's an experience I'll never forget. I got to talk to some leading academics that I've actually read some of their non-fiction works, which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, I'd highly recommend to anyone to apply if they want to, because I was not thinking of applying until just before the summer holiday, and one of my teachers said you should think about this. And so yeah, I'd say my bits of advice is be prepared so that you're not overwhelmed for preparing for Oxbridge, but also balancing your subjects at the same time. So be prepared, do some extra work during the summer, not too much. I'm just saying a few hours a week, where I'm not saying study from dawn to dusk every day. That is far too extreme. You cannot keep that going. It's more about being prepared, and also be confident in this, not in the sense of confident that you're going to get in, because obviously it is incredibly hard to get in and very competitive, and if you are going to get in still, you may not feel confident, but it's more feeling confident that you're going to do everything that you can do. And it's important heading into those interviews to really just believe in yourself and just think, I've done what I can, let's head in here and have no regrets. Because I think especially for that first interview I was quite nervous, and there was a few things I should have mentioned that I didn't, but for the others I had that kind of that motto of no regrets, just going confident. And yeah, I think that really helped with the other interviews. And yeah, I definitely have no regrets with it. So I would highly recommend anyone applying to Oxbridge to go forward with it, try it out. But also I want to talk about this because it is not a bad thing to be rejected by Oxbridge. Because as I think I watched a video by Jack Edwards, I think when I was doing my Oxbridge application, and he was saying how he was rejected. But there's a lot of success stories you hear, but you don't need to be disappointed if you are rejected. Obviously, be disappointed that obviously you would think you may go to Oxford, but you shouldn't feel ashamed in yourself, because it is so hard to get into, and many people get rejections. It's a very small portion get accepted, but that does not mean that the application process is not worth it. It still totally was, and it really helped me get better results at the end of my A-levels. So yeah, everyone, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you found this a bit interesting, whether you've applied to Oxbridge in the past, whether you're at Oxford or Cambridge, or whether you're applying now or thinking of applying. I hope this really helped you really think about that. And yeah, as I said, I'd highly recommend it. And so yeah, this was my own personal experience. Obviously it may be different with other subjects, or it may have altered slightly in the time since I applied, but yeah, that was my own personal experience and my input, a bit of advice from me. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you got something from this. Take care.